Real Virginia is proudly produced by the Virginia Farm Bureau Federation. Since 1926, Farm Bureau has been working to preserve Virginia farms and our rural heritage. Visit our website at vafarmbureau.org.
Home will always be Virginia, between the Blue Ridge and Chesapeake Bay, Atlantic to Appalachia, home in my heart always.
Hello everyone and welcome to Real Virginia, a show about Virginia agriculture and the people who produce all of the wonderful products we enjoy. A young farmer from Virginia speaks about a message for farmers that helped him win a national title. It's time to prepare your boxwoods for spring, and the cattle industry is making hoofprints on Tobacco Road. Welcome back, everyone. As consumers begin to learn more about where their food is coming from, one Loudoun County young farmer says it's important for farmers to be transparent about how they raise that food. An overwhelming majority of U.S. farmers are born into the business. But Chris Van Vleck of Loudoun County grew up in the bustling urban area of Northern Virginia. He didn't work on a farm until he graduated from American University with a government and communications degree. By 2007, farming became his passion. He found a new way to live out his dream and bring a new perspective to farm advocacy in Northern Virginia.
We get to talk face to face with the folks about their concerns, whereas some folks maybe in more rural areas are hearing about it, second or third hand. So we'll see, we have a lot of direct market producers here in Loudoun, and they have folks come to their farm. So they'll get to hear the concerns right there. I think there is a real value in having agricultural operations in places like Loudoun and in places around Richmond and Hampton Roads, because it's a way that we as farmers can connect to our consumers.
Van Vleck runs a custom hay operation in the county and serves on the Loudoun County Farm Bureau Board of Directors. He's also an urban agriculture conservationist for Loudoun Soil and Water Conservation District. His unique perspective on agriculture helped him take top honors in the 2016 American Farm Bureau Federation Young Farmer and Ranchers Discussion Meet competition in Orlando, Florida. After 2 days of competition with other state winners, Van Vleck was one of 4 finalists. The final round topic was, how can Farm Bureau members influence state and national policies in a political atmosphere that favors increased regulations on farmers?
When we talk about developing policies that can affect burdensome federal regulations, we need to drive to be Farm Bureau leaders. And that means making policies both at our local levels and our committees at our state levels and here at American Farm Bureau with the public in mind. But it all starts with convincing the public at large that we are Farm Bureau leaders, we have their best interests in mind, and we can address policy that benefits all of us in society.
The annual Discussion Meet competition gives young farmers real-life experience in considering important issues with others and working to build consensus decision. In Van Vleck's case, it was also a platform and a plea for farmers and consumers to talk honestly with each other about modern farm practices.
Ask a farmer. Those farmers are eating that food, they're feeding their children that food, and sometimes you can get caught up into reading something on social media or reading about agribusiness, factory farms, but when you get down to it, there is a farmer in that field implementing that practice. That's what I try to do, is always kind of think about the person on the other side of the fence. You're not always going to agree, but it does help to build some bridges and dispel some of the really worst rumors on both sides.
It took Van Vleck years of work to hone his speaking skills to represent his industry. To compete at the national level, Van Vleck won the 2015 Virginia Farm Bureau Young Farmers Discussion Meet at the Farm Bureau Annual Convention last December.
5 out of the 6 years have made it to the final at convention, and so I certainly had a lot of practice going through there, and I got a lot of great tips from all the people that beat me along the way. So finally breaking through in what my final year of eligibility was pretty special, and I think you had a lot more he had a lot more respect for what it meant.
At the national discussion meet, Van Vleck took home a new General Motors vehicle and received a trip to the 2016 American Farm Bureau Young Farmer and Ranchers Leadership Conference in Kansas City. You can learn more about the Young Farmer program at vafarmbureau.org.
The average age of a Virginia farmer is 59 and rising. Many people want to be farmers, but the high cost of buying land and capital prevents most young people from achieving that dream. There is help. The U.S. Department of Agriculture, Virginia Cooperative Extension, Virginia Tech, and Virginia State University, and the Virginia Department of Agriculture, along with farm blenders, all offer programs to help aspiring young farmers get started. A good place to start looking is the Beginning Farmer and Rancher program at vabeginningfarmer.org.
I'm Mark Viette. Coming up on In the Garden, I'm going to talk about what you can do with your overgrown boxwood. Stay with us.
90 years ago, the Virginia Farm Bureau made our local farmers a promise to protect and preserve a way of life they'd worked so hard to establish. Today, our insurance agents work to protect all Virginians, not just farmers. Anyone can be a Farm Bureau member, but the original promise remains. There's a local Farm Bureau in every county of the state. We want to keep Virginia, Virginia. Visit our websites at farmbureauadvantage.com and vafarmbureau.org.
There's a lot of folks who aren't sure where the next meal is coming from.
Hunger is invisible. You can't look at a person and really know that they're hungry.
Nationally, 1 out of every 5 children are food insecure, and that means they don't know where their next meal is coming from.
Feed More, I think, is an incredibly important pillar to our community.
We're able to take 95 cents out of every dollar that is donated and put it back to work.
To find out how you can donate or volunteer, visit feedmore.org.
It's about that time of season when your boxwoods will begin to bud. And as Mark Viette shows us, it's easy to take care of them in the garden.
Over the years, we start out planting this little tiny plant, for example, a boxwood. And years later, we're in the house a lot longer than we ever expected, and this boxwood is covering our windows. It's almost growing to the gutters. It could be blocking our walkways. What do? You have 2 choices. You could rip it out and start over, but ideally, you can rely on the fantastic root system that this plant has created. And in the spring, usually sometime in March, the root system takes all the waters and all the sugar and nutrients from the year before and starts pushing it into the upper part of the plant. That's an ideal time to prune, and I'm calling this renewal pruning, rejuvenation pruning. And so March is a great time. Now, occasionally, we might prune a little bit here or there hard for holiday decorations, but normally March is my recommendation before your boxwoods begin to grow. Now, you may not cut back severely your English boxwoods, which tends to be a little slower growing, or your dwarf boxwoods. I'm talking more of the so-called American boxwood or the Korean boxwood, like you see here. And if you look, you can see where we've pruned this here in March, and it looks great. We cut them anywhere from 12 inches to 18 inches. And as you'll see, we'll find a lot of things. We were wondering where the skunks were nesting, and hopefully the skunks won't come out now, but the area that we blocked off underneath this tool shed came apart, and the skunks are there. You also find, the other reason you may want to prune around porches or around siding is that the siding, due to not getting enough sun, is pretty much deteriorating. And you can see up top where it is getting a little more sun, the siding is in better shape. So there are reasons to go ahead and prune. Another problem that occurs with overgrown boxwood is when we have ice and snow, especially a lot of it, it will weigh the branches down. For example, years ago, this branch had been weighed down pretty much to the ground. Very little growth. So it's another reason, if you have that problem, you might want to prune these. Just come in 12 to 18 inches. It's not hard. It is important to get good, high quality tools, and you're just going to come in and prune just like this. It's a great workout. You can still see a little growth in and around coming out of the base, so there are shoots and buds at the base of this boxwood, but 12 to 18 inches. Sometimes I'll even cut them a little shorter. And as you can see, and I'll use a hand shears if need be for the little things, but for the large things, you're going to want a good heavy-duty pruner. And if you want, you also have the option for a little hand saw. And so if you do have some growth that's pretty heavy, you can come right through. If you want to prove to your neighbors that cutting back some of your boxwood hard like this really works, go ahead and leave or pre-prune a year earlier one plant. Then you can show how well this looks. And so if your neighbor has that overgrown boxwood around their house, it'll give them reason to clean up around their home. I'm Mark Viette. Join me next time in the garden.
For more garden tips, go to inthegardenradio.com.
What recipe includes both garlic and Swiss chard and makes a delicious one-pan dish? We'll see next in the heart of the home.
I love being a dairy farmer because it's an adventure to be a dairy farmer. It's a new beginning every day.
Every day I can get up in the morning and have a smile on my face, whether it's raining or whether the sun's shining. I love what I do.
Growing up on a dairy farm, I think you learn to work really hard and don't take anything for granted.
There's a lot of work to do on a dairy farm. You have to be committed.
It's a huge responsibility that we have being farmers. We take pride in it and we're proud to be able to do it.
Every day we have the opportunity to provide a wholesome product that's vitamin rich and nutrient full.
It's a feel-good feeling knowing that I'm putting food on somebody else's table and that I'm doing a good job doing it.
I'm Ken Smith.
I'm Ben Smith, and I'm
dedicated to
dairy, my cows, my milk, my land.
All right, give me a spot. You know my motto, safety first.
They could be dangerous. I think we should call animal control.
Animal control?
To be safe.
Don't worry. I got this. It's a new motto.
You don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. There are thousands of teens in foster care who don't need perfection. They need you.
There are 800 chicken operations in Virginia, part of the state's largest farm sector, the poultry industry. Virginia is the 10th largest chicken-producing state, raising 262 million birds each year. The National Chicken Council estimates the state's chicken industry accounts for an economic impact of $5.2 billion. One reason it's so dominant is because of breeding and nutrition advances. A century ago, it took more than 5 pounds of feed to produce a pound of chicken. With today's nutritional advances, farmers need just 2 pounds of feed to achieve the same growth results.
Looking for a one-pan dish with Mediterranean flavor for dinner tonight? Look no more. Miss America 2010 Carissa Jackson has a recipe for baked Greek chicken thighs in the heart of the home.
Hi, I'm Carissa Jackson from Heart of the Home, cooking at the kitchen at Meadow Hall at the Meadow Event Park. Today we're going to be making baked Greek chicken thighs. To begin, I've started by preheating a skillet at medium-high heat. We have 4 chicken thighs here bone in, and we're going to start by making a marinade that we're going to use before we put them in the skillet. So we're going to start with a little bit of olive oil. Just want to drizzle it around our chicken breast. About half juice of a lemon. 2 thinly sliced cloves of garlic. A little bit of paprika. A little bit of oregano and savory seasoning, and fresh cracked salt. I'm going to mix everything up and then transfer them skin side down to our skillet. gonna let this cook skin side down for about 3 to 5 minutes. Meanwhile, while our chicken is cooking, we're gonna go ahead and start working with our chard. I have 1 bunch chard here that has been thinly sliced into strips, and we're gonna start placing these on the bottom of our baking dish in rows and then crossway. You wanna cover the entire bottom of your baking dish the best way possible. And you want to lay them as flat as possible because this will ensure when we put the chicken back on top that it cooks as evenly as the chicken does at the same time. All of the ingredients for this recipe have been provided to us by our friends at Relay Foods. And then once you can no longer see, for the most part, the bottom of your baking dish, we're going to top it with a little bit of olive oil. We're just going to drizzle it. We have 4 whole green olives that have been pitted and sliced. I'm going to lay those along the bed. Then here we have 4 garlic cloves that have been sliced as well. We're going to place those along the bottom. And we're going to reserve a couple for the top of the chicken when it gets out of our skillet. The skillet step is a step that you could possibly skip. If you would like to skip that step, then what I would suggest you do is make the marinade the same way that we did, but add your olives and all of your garlic at that point, and then you're just going to put it on top of your bed and then bake it. And we'll add a little bit more juice of our lemon. And now it's time to turn our chicken thighs over. They are nice and golden brown. And the olive oil base is a really healthy alternative than if you were to put this in, like my mom would do it, butter. So it's definitely a more healthy alternative, as is making many healthy chicken dishes. So we're gonna give this maybe another 2 or 3 minutes on this side. The chicken doesn't have to be all the way done because it's gonna finish off in our oven, which is preheating at 375. All right, now we're going to transfer our chicken thighs onto our green bed. And we definitely want to take all the good stuff from our pan and drizzle it onto our chicken for it to bake. And then we'll get a little bit of the garlic that's left. And then we're going to place this in the oven at 375 for about 25 minutes. All right, now our chicken is out of the oven and it's time to serve. We're going to go ahead and plate the chicken. And you want to get some of your greens and garlic and olives because those are the things that have the most flavor. I'm going to go ahead and put 2 out. And then we're going to top it off with some fresh pepperoncinis. And here we have baked Greek chicken thighs. I'm Caressa Jackson for Heart of the Home. Come and get it.
Recipes from the Heart of the Home can be found on the Virginia Farm Bureau website at vafarmbureau.org. Visit the Virginia farm that produced an American legend. See the birthplace of 1973 Triple Crown champion Secretariat, now a Virginia historic landmark, at Meadow Event Park. Our Hoofprints of History tours are given year-round by reservation. It's a perfect day trip for families, groups large or small, and anyone who loves horses and history. Resident author-historian Leanne Meadows-Layden conducts the tours and shares behind-the-scenes stories about Meadow Stable and its most famous son, Secretariat. Meadow Event Park also hosts the annual Secretariat Birthday Celebration at the Virginia Horse Festival each spring. Visit Secretariat's birthplace at Meadow Event Park.
Smokey just gave me a bear hug.
Southside Virginia has been known as tobacco country for centuries now, but as Dave Miller reports, these days farmers are raising a lot of cattle on Tobacco Road.
Southside Virginia is world famous for its tobacco crop, and that is still an important commodity in the region. Raising cattle has also been important for area farmers, but in the past decade, the cattle business has been growing faster than any other sector. The Census of Agriculture reports that there are 1/3 more cattle in Pittsylvania County now than a decade ago. Ronnie Waller has seen a lot of that change. He's been farming tobacco in Halifax County since 1973, as well as building his cattle herd since the early 80s.
We're 30 miles from Danville, 30 miles from Lynchburg, 100 miles from Richmond, so we're a little in a forgotten part of the state. But the cattle still fit in.
Cattle, historically for the county, has been a great parallel with tobacco farming. You know, when we had such large acreages down here, you know, and you had farms that had smaller amounts of tobacco, but yet they had lots of land to do with something else with. So the natural segue was to put in cattle, and that trend has kind of held over the time.
Waller's daughter, Blair, is the next generation to run cattle on their farm. She says the two commodities complement each other on the calendar, which makes it easier to diversify their farm operations.
I think the biggest thing with us is with the tobacco season. You stay really busy, and during the summer, usually with cows during the summer, they're good. You might have to feed hay every now and then, but for the most part, they're good. And then when the off season is when you do most of your work with the cattle, with their calving season. And especially with the prices recently, they've been really good.
One reason the cattle sector is doing well here is farmers took steps years ago to reduce shipping costs and offer better deals to out-of-state buyers.
And headquartered here in Halifax County, we have the Southern Virginia Beef Alliance. It does cover several counties surrounding Halifax, but they have come together, the producers, and they commingle their loads. They do natural and regular cattle, and that's an avenue to go, but you have to follow their steps. So it's very important, but they are getting premium pricing in many instances over and above what you could get going to a regular market.
Kimley Blanks, Halifax County Agricultural Marketing Director, says producers and local government leaders also want to see a USDA licensed meat processing plant built in her county. That effort has been gaining steam in the past few years. One of the newest cattlemen who could benefit from that plant is Hunter Johnson, who just bought his 75-acre farm in 2014. Hunter grew up on a nearby cattle farm and has a passion for the animals. And that means understanding how to make a profit in the business.
Certainly when you get started in the cattle industry, their cash flow is always something that you need to keep in mind, because when you first invest in a group of cows, there's going to be some time before you will see a return on your investment. It's a long-term investment, and I realize that, and I certainly don't plan to leave. I plan to be here and hopefully continue to grow in the cattle industry and make myself known.
With consumer demand for more locally raised foods and meats growing, and the obvious pride Southside cattlemen take in their craft, it's clear the future is bright here for the cattle industry. In Pittsylvania County, Virginia, this is Dave Miller.
That's going to do it for this edition of Real Virginia. We're so glad you could join us to celebrate the bounty Virginia has to offer. Whether it's in your home, your garden, or your landscape, we're proud to say that this is Real Virginia. So for everyone from the Virginia Farm Bureau, thanks for watching. Make it a good week.
Home will always be Virginia, between the Blue Ridge and Chesapeake Bay, Atlantic to Appalachia.